Hello BookTube. Today I'm going to be doing the My Personal Library tag. It was created by Sally Swearingen, and I saw it yesterday on Criminali's channel. And I'll have links to both down below. I'm also going to be doing this tag because I think it would give me a bit of a way to go ahead and talk about my thoughts about my just recently finished 2022 library tour, which I've been meaning to get to, and I can do this tag and I can talk about my library tour and thoughts about it all in one video. So sounds like a win-win. So let's get going to the questions. Do you have some books around, or do you think of yourself as having a collection or personal library? I think of myself as having a personal library, and a collection too, but I think of it as a personal library. What does a collection or personal library mean to you? Just the books that I've accumulated over any given period of time that I currently still have in my possession, in my collection / library. What is your personal library for? My personal library is for me. It's for me to read, to peruse, to commune with, all of that. Where is your personal library? Contained to a single room or spread out all about the house? So the vast majority of my collection is in my bedroom, where we are right now, where I usually film. My collection library has begun to spread into the hall. There's a little space in the hall in front of my room where I can put some bookcases. I've put a rather big one just recently. It's going on about 2 weeks since I got it and put it together, which was a pain in the rear end, but anyway, so I've got a bookcase there, and then I also have my cookbooks in the kitchen where they are most useful. I mean, because when I've had like earlier cookbook collections and I've had them with my other books, I really didn't use them because they were in the bedroom, which is usually where my library starts. And so they're not really all that convenient for cooking. But in the kitchen or living room, they're much more convenient there. But generally speaking, my collection for the present will be pretty much contained to my bedroom, because I have a very limited space where I can expand to. And that's generally just the bedroom and my little area in front of my bedroom door in the hall. How many books make up your personal library? So I haven't added in the books I'm hauling for March. So at the end of my last book haul in February, I had 980 books. When I went to add them to my collection, I have, which I'll get to explain that in a bit, I realized that there was at least one book I did not have in my catalog. So I went and added it, and that made it 981 books. Although I probably should print out a copy of my catalog and go through and make sure I didn't miss anybody else. That's entirely possible. Although how I missed that one, I have no idea. But anyway. So for the so in the catalog, it's 981. I've pretty much well cleared 1,000 books this month. My March haul, which I will be doing a week from tomorrow, be March 31st, is going to be immense. It's going to be a book haul of madness. It's a lot of books. My largest book haul ever. And I fully blame Princeton University Press for that, because 75% off sales are catnip for me. But anyway, I'll get to that on next Thursday. So it's probably about 1,010, maybe a little bit more than that, but I'll have a clearer idea when I put the new books into the catalog, which, given how many books it is, I probably should have gone ahead and done it now. So that Thursday's video is going to take me forever. Anyway, let's move on. How do you organize your personal library? So, I basically have my library divided into subjects. Behind me on this bookcase here is where I'm keeping, for the moment, the general nonfiction and general genre fiction. This is the general nonfiction, below is the general genre fiction. And eventually this bookcase will be used for more history, which is in these two bookcases here. There's a little bit of time before history kind of overtakes this one, at which point I'll move general nonfiction and general genre fiction to the wall shelves, I think. Most of this room, which you can't see, is science fiction and fantasy, except for my headboard bookcase, which is now where I'm putting my manga. I used to have my manga on this wall shelf here, but looking at it, I hated how it looked. It looked a bit tacky, because there are little dividers that my brother put on there that sort of interrupt the series, and it also encourages the manga to kind of fall off. So I'm putting them on the headboard bookcase for the moment. Although I do have a bookcase that my brother made for me that's currently the end of the science fiction and fantasy section. I want to move my manga there. I don't know if I'm going to keep them also in the headboard bookcase or just completely move them to my brother's bookcase. And then if I decide to replace it with something else, manga would still stay there. In the hall on the new bookcase is where I have the classics, canonical, and modern contemporary fiction, poetry, and drama. And if there was more space, literary criticism, but there's not. So literary criticism gets to hang out with general nonfiction. And then in the hall is my cookbooks, and then my bookcase. My desk has two shelves, which I have my writing and my art books. And I think so for the moment that's what I've got. I probably will need to get some more bookcases. There's a few spaces in the room that don't have bookcases that I could probably add some. I could but I'd also probably start having to lose furniture like my desk or my dresser, and that's kind of going to be a bit, I don't know, excessive? No. Anyway, next question. Do you keep track of your personal library? If so, how? I do. I have a Word document on my computer that lists all of the books I have. And so every month when I do a book haul, I will, as I'm pretty much uploading the haul video, I'll be logging in, like doing the books mentioned, books hauled. I'll be putting the books in there. I'll also be writing them into my catalog, which is organized rather weirdly because my writing books are first, and then it's everything else in alphabetical order except for The cookbooks and the art books, I think, come at the end, and they're alphabetical order. And then I think at the end of that are the manga, because they're the most recent thing I've started to collect. So it's kind of weird how I do it, but it works for me. How do you decide to add a book to your personal library? I generally, it's whatever mood strikes me. If I've got a desire for something or an obsession with a specific subject or a genre, I'll kind of add it as the whim takes me. I don't usually have like a specific goal, although sometimes I do. Lately, I've been working my way through collecting all of Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicle by Clamp, one of my favorite manga series. I've also been trying to collect Fairy Tail, my favorite, by Hiro Mishima, my favorite manga of all time. So far, I've got about 20 volumes. Got a whole bunch more of them to collect, and a few other manga series. I'm really, over the past few months, the manga bug has kind of bit me again. I've also had a desire to add more contemporary poetry to my collection, so that's kind of increasing. A few months ago, I went History Man. There were whole months where the only thing I hauled were history books, except for maybe the occasional manga volume or two. So it's whatever fancy strikes me at any given time, or desire strikes me at any given time for what books I want to collect or add to my library. When it's time to cull your personal library, how do you decide what stays and goes? Now, this is a question that has plagued me for some time. I haven't unhauled or purged my collection in years. Largely because I mean, obviously the pandemic has sort of affected that. Because of where I would go, Golden Book Exchange, I haven't gone into years. So pretty much the books, I haven't done an unhauling, a purge in 2 or 3 years. I mean, I have purged before. Generally, when I first had my kind of my baby manga collection, and also when I got back into comics, I unhauled a huge number of the literary fiction and classics and canonical work that I'd amassed over the previous years. And now I'm kind of regretting that, which is always sort of the danger with me in hauling, is coming to regret having gotten rid of a lot of what I've had. Which is also kind of biting me with the manga too, because I'm like, I could have already had all of Fairy Tail. Why did I get rid of them? And Fullmetal Alchemist and Bleach and Naruto and so on and so forth. So I think I need to, besides getting rid of doubles, I think I need to be completely sure I'm not going to regret having gotten rid of the books I get rid of. Which is obviously a struggle for me. So hopefully I'll be able to manage it, because again, space is at a premium in my library, because I can't necessarily expand much more than where I've already gone to. So, does your personal library have books you haven't read? Yes, quite a number of them. I mean, that's one of the things I think I want to try to do over the next, maybe not necessarily June, but kind of starting in July. I think I sort of want to focus more on the books that I haven't read yet. Except for maybe like manga, because, well, I pretty much read all of them at least a few times. But anyway. But yeah, there are books that I haven't read yet. Are there some that I may not read? Uh, it's entirely possible. I would like to try to get to all of them, but yeah, me being me, you can never tell. Does your personal library have. Oh, wait, I've already asked that question. What do you think about the idea of a zero TBR? I don't know. Hmm. I'm not. I mean, I don't know if that's. I mean, I'm assuming it must have been explained somewhere. I just missed it. So I don't know if it's like completely clearing off your TBR to where you have no kind of set agenda of what you want to read, or if it's just your TBR is whatever you want to read at any given moment. I don't quite know. And finally, how do you feel about towards your personal library? I love it. I just adore having the collection that I have and would like to add more to it. Although, again, space being what it is. Um, so anyway, so that was the my personal library tag. Although I'm thinking it's not quite an official tag, but maybe it is. I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, so some more thoughts about my personal 2022 library tour. Since while I'm at it and thinking about it, I had a lot of fun doing it. Although, if you stuck around, and I know about 5 of you did for the science fiction and fantasy part of my 2022 library tour, you'll notice it got dispiriting pretty quickly, realizing not only how many of those books I hadn't read yet, but how many I didn't particularly care for. And that did, I mean, dispirit me. Because, I mean, science fiction and fantasy, they're my favorite genres. But, I mean, the tour, and then, of course, participating in New Worlds in November, and kind of sort of participating in the February fantasy stories, it again was quite dispiriting that not really feeling it. It's just science fiction and fantasy aren't really quite doing it for me. And while I've often spoken of the past 2 years of me having some weird thing with fiction, as I kind of rediscover a love of history. I mean, my history collection used to be maybe a shelf or two on this bookcase. It is now all of this bookcase and almost all of this bookcase. I've amassed a massive history collection over the past 2 years, and it's likely to pretty quickly go into this bookcase. So during that time period, I've also had an incredibly hard time getting on with fiction. Now, when it comes to modern contemporary fiction, or general fiction, or literary fiction, or however you want to define that particular genre, if it is a genre, I've always had issues with that. I mean, I did have a period when I was in college, maybe a little before and a little after getting my bachelor's, where I did rather enjoy more classics, canonical, modern, contemporary fiction, and poetry and drama. I mean, I was an English lit major. It was the thing to, I mean, it was, yeah. But as I kind of transitioned out of that and my kind of reading largely turned to science fiction and fantasy, I mean, there's a point where I really wanted my entire collection, except for a rump, to be all science fiction and fantasy. And of course, comics and manga at the time, too. Um, I sort of, it was like, pretty much I picked up everything. And that's kind of why science fiction and fantasy is as large as it is. But gradually, like, I didn't particularly like a whole lot of it. And the last 2 years, it's pretty much, I mean, almost every science fiction fantasy novel I've read, I haven't particularly gotten on with. And it's disparaging because, again, my favorite genres, and I'm not liking what I'm reading. So yeah, so that was kind of a recurrent theme of the end of my library tour. So I mean, when it does come to purge my collection, I think obviously I'm going to have to really take the weed whacker to my science fiction fantasy collection, because a whole bookcase I want to move the manga to. So, and I mean, there are a good number of candidates that I can get rid of probably without missing them, which is always a danger. So, yeah. So anyway, that was again my personal library tag and some thoughts on my 2022 library tour. I don't know when I'll do another library tour, maybe in another 2 years, or if my library drastically changes. I mean, obviously, every month I do a book haul of the books that I have added to my collection over that month, and I will also be filming the purges too. I don't know if I'll call them the hauls or the culls or the purge or pruning or however I want to define it. I'll kind of film those too, and I'm not entirely sure where I would want to send them off to. I'm thinking Golden's, if my brother and sister-in-law are willing to take me now that the pandemic has eased quite a bit. Or trying maybe, let's say, selling them to Pals for store credit, which would be lovely since I shop at Pals rather frequently. Pals is the big independent bookstore in Portland, Oregon. That is a city block, and it is amazing. In person and ordering from. So anyway, I'm rambling, so I'm going to go ahead and sign up for now. I don't know what tag videos I'll be doing tomorrow. I mean, obviously there's the skip to my loo tag, which is making the rounds, but I am not going to be showing you my bathroom. It is hideous. No. Also, since I don't read in the bathroom, the only question I can reasonably answer is are there any books I've read that deal with public toilets or bathrooms? Which there are, but it's like the only question I can answer, so I don't know about that one. I also want to do the Faces of Horror tag, and I think there was another one I saw, but I don't know if I've done it, because I've kind of forgotten some of the tags I've done. So, but then again, I mean, redoing tags, you can always sort of change your answers. So anyway, again, I'm rambling, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off for now. Thank you, BookTube. Have a great afternoon, and I will see you hopefully tomorrow with the tag video, and if not, then see you definitely on Friday for weekly read. So until then, BookTube, thank you, have a great afternoon, and stay safe.